Oliver, you make videos that get hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views. But as we both know, there's tons of YouTubers out there making informational, educational content. They can't even get hundreds of views themselves. So while you're here, I've got to ask you, I've got to start with this. What is your process for making videos where you know they're going to get so many views?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think it all starts with the channel idea and therefore the video idea. So for me, it's very important to get the right concept that is interesting and has the title and thumbnail kind of appeal. I think that's where it starts, is the title and thumbnail appeal is knowing what's working in the niche and then knowing how to adapt that. And I think it's usually the title and thumbnail, the packaging, the idea, video idea, that's the first thing. And then only once you get good at that and you like know what you're doing there, then it's like, okay, let's refine the video, let's improve the editing, let's improve the pacing of the intro, etc. But it starts with the video idea and the content strategy and the channel idea.
Okay, so let's start with idea. We've mentioned idea and packaging there. Okay. It sounds like coming up with a really good idea it's important to you. Can you give us some insight into how you go about that?
Sure.
Like coming up with these ideas.
So it is firstly starting with what I want to educate about. There's kind of like, I have that roughly in mind. And I think a lot of educators have that as well. It's that they have certain ideas they want to share, they want to make content about. That's kind of the first step. The second step is realizing that what you want to educate about is probably not the best angle to go at making a video. It's better to go at the angle of what do people want to see, what is successful on YouTube, how do I use that? So generally what I do is like have an idea of what I want to say, and then also have an idea of what's working on YouTube and have an idea of what's working in the niche. And then what I do is I kind of try and work backwards. So I find the thing in the niche that's working, that's kind of relevant enough, and I kind of work backwards to say, okay, how can I fit in what I want to education-wise into this? So for example, if there's an educator looking to make videos about how to make money online, it might be finding what's working in terms of what's very popular at the moment, which might be like ChatGPT making money online. That's kind of thing that's working in the niche. And then your particular educational angle about how to actually present that, which you kind of want to say, which isn't maybe AI, but it's just general kind of philosophy on how to make money. That is then embedded into the video, which is already succeeding. The video idea that's already succeeding, which is the AI ChatGPT thing. So that's how I do it. I kind of work backwards like that. I think that's pretty important.
Really clever.
I think because most educators, including myself, like tend to focus too much on what we want to say.
Sure, not what the people actually are looking for or they want to hear.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
That's a really powerful idea. I want to get back to that in a second, but first off, we skipped into just asking you that question straight away. I want to just explore exactly your credentials, and I'm really excited to have you because I know exactly, what you have under your achievements and what you're involved in at the moment. Could you maybe talk us through some of the projects that because I know that you have a ton of projects as well, some of the projects that you're running at the moment on YouTube, and I can probably show them on screen as you're talking through them. I've got your channel SolarBalls up at the moment on YouTube, so maybe you can start with this and talk us through different projects you have.
Okay, sure. So I have various YouTube channels that are animation mostly, and they are focused on doing educational content, which is quite entertaining. So we try and appeal to an entertaining sounding title and thumbnail, which as you can see on screen, as Greg has got here, there's like various fun titles, which maybe if you're not interested in space, you're still looking to watch a fun video and this is kind of interesting. So that's kind of the angle. Is each channel, we are trying to make content which appeals to somebody who's kind of on YouTube for entertainment, but it is educational content once they click. So it's kind of this concept of chocolate covered broccoli. They come for the chocolate, they come for what they're really interested in, and just like what's entertaining, and then we do the education that is behind that, which is the broccoli, which we want to be sharing. So that's it. So we have SolarBalls, we have MrSpherical, which is the geopolitics kind of version of, it's the geopolitics version of SolarBalls in a way. They're kind of like similar. We also have Worker Boy, which is a channel similar to both of these. Again, similar animation style, but it is focused on companies instead of geopolitics as an interest. And we have a few others as well, which we're launching. And I also have an agency which helps other YouTubers with their production, like video editing. And that was kind of the original business, which I started and then moved into making my own animation brands afterwards.
It's incredible. You're one of the people I know that have the most things going on with YouTube. And it's not like you're busy with a lot of small projects either. Like if we just look at these numbers, MrSpherical, nearly 800,000 subscribers, hundreds of thousands of views per video. Sorry, that was SolarBalls, my bad. MrSpherical, 1.5 million subscribers nearly, 300,000 views on your latest video, 500,000. Like you're constantly hitting with bangers and seeing success here. It's so impressive, and I feel so lucky to have you on this call.
Awesome.
So
and one thing I'll say is that like for me it's all about the team that I'm building. So I wouldn't say I don't take too much credit from myself. I build a really good team. I think I take credit for finding really good team members, but otherwise it's a team that are really excellent at doing this work.
Okay, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to get you on this, because I think we've got a lot to learn about building teams and time management from you. But let's park that and we'll talk about that just a little later. I just want to jump back a little bit. We talked about ideas and packaging. I loved what you said about ideas, covering the broccoli and chocolate, and giving people teaching what you want to teach, but in the context, and wraps it up inside of what people actually want to hear. That's a really useful lesson. I also had that explained to me as hiding your vegetables, which, covering broccoli and chocolate's the same thing. Maybe let's move on to packaging now then. Have you got some best practices with packaging that you follow?
So the main way I've learnt packaging is like studying psychology. So just generally having an interest in psychology, understanding how the human mind works. That's definitely been helpful to understand both my own psychology and also then how, when I empathize with the viewer and I try and be in the viewer's shoes and I look through YouTube and I look at my own videos as a viewer, or at least attempt to, that kind of informs how I then know how to then change the packaging or create new packaging. So that's kind of the first thing is I think it's all about psychology. And if you can master that combined with understanding your audience and your niche, then that's a really powerful combination. So yeah, in terms of psychology, I'd say the most crucial part that I look into for me has been curiosity. So curiosity is kind of a very interesting word, and it's what basically drives a lot of success on YouTube. Because firstly, if somebody is, let's say that a video comes in front of them and they are not curious at all, like the chances they're going to click on that is very, very low, because the video below is going to be slightly more curiosity inducing. However, if that video is the most curiosity inducing and interesting thing they have seen on YouTube or on social media for the past week, it's like, okay, the chances they click on that are very, very, very high. So curiosity is kind of the key thing, which I always use to figure out if the packaging is good. So is that a non-negotiable? Do you have to have curiosity in everything that you create on YouTube every time? I think so, yeah. I think that's it, yeah. It's always curiosity driven. So what is the most curiosity inducing thing for the particular audience? Because this is another interesting part is curiosity is dependent on a few things. So for example, if somebody doesn't have enough background context about the niche, then if you use certain keywords in a title, it may appeal to somebody who's really quite technical and understands your niche and they understand these complicated financial terms. But if there's a different audience that you're trying to reach, but they don't understand the terms, then those same terms are not going to create the curiosity because they have no idea what they even mean, right? So it's very dependent on the audience. It's also dependent on the kind of like the level of understanding the audience has about the niche. So that's important. It's like knowing what's curiosity inducing on like a human behavior level, and then also what is the audience you're going for, and then what do they know, what do they not know, and how do you kind of play with those things to make curiosity? Okay, so first off, understanding the target audience seems super important there. Getting into curiosity and the use of specific words, I found something you said really interesting there. Certain audiences are going to know some words, like technical words, whereas others don't. Do you make your sort of titles and videos less technical to contain less technical words so that the videos have a broader appeal, or do you keep the technical words in and just target the narrow audience that you're really aiming for? What would you say is the best way to go there? Yeah, so for content like ours, which is like trying to do the broadly appealing thing, which is focused on just kind of reaching as many people as we want with the particular videos we're doing, that is generally better to be as simple as possible, because that is, is more likely to have a broader set of people interested. So generally we're targeting like teenagers. So again, like that's a audience which doesn't know so many technical words. So again, we need to be cautious of that. Mr. Beast, for example, he intentionally, like I believe I've heard in the past, he puts his script through these websites which essentially tell you what the ruling level is of your script. So like it tells you how complicated your terminology is, your sentences are, and he dumbs it down as much as possible because that means that he can then broadly appeal to the most amount of people possible. So it's both in terms of the script and it's also in terms of the title and thumbnail, is knowing what that level of technicality you want is, and then like just consistently doing that. I think generally the more simple the better. But sometimes using technical language can help if you wanted to show off authority in some particular way, or if, for example, the packaging and the title and thumbnail, that's how I kind of use the word packaging. If that is directed towards a particular question, so for example, what is something? And that something could be a technical word. And in that case, technical word obviously makes sense because the fact they don't know it is why you're creating curiosity. So it depends on how you do it. But in most cases, simpler is better.
And yeah, you said that you dedicate a lot of time to study psychology and in particular how to drive curiosity. You've loosely covered a few examples, but are there any tips that you can share with the viewers on how to drive curiosity and create curiosity?
Yeah. So there's a few different factors to curiosity which I've studied, and I can link a few books which we can put in the show notes, which I think will be useful. So there's various books I've read on those as pieces in terms of a few tips. So novelty is like one of the basic ones which everyone uses without realizing, is like something new is generally curiosity inducing. So for example, if there's a new AI tool, that's obviously going to be probably more interesting than just a normal AI video about ChatGPT. It's like, what is a new thing that's just like basic YouTube knowledge? Is you trend jack, you make videos about new stuff. That is everyone's doing that without realizing, but that is like a literal part of curiosity.
And when you say trend jack, you mean find topics that are trending and jump on that bandwagon, almost like ride that hype and make videos around those trends.
Yeah. In addition to that, it's also about using popular brands. So for example, with Worker Boy, the channel we've got here, we are essentially using the brand names that we know are really popular. So we're not necessarily making videos about, the most recent McDonald's news, but we are using the brands which we know are quite popular. So the recent videos have McDonald's as like kind of a central focus, and that is because we know it's broadly appealing. We know it's like interesting to our audience, and that's another way of, it's not maybe not technically trend jacking exactly, but it's kind of a similar thing. It is leveraging what is popular in culture, and that is important as well. So
cool. So trend jacking and leveraging things that are popular in culture, and I guess making topics on things that are popular has a novelty around it because it's kind of a new thing that's currently being talked about in the public discourse. Anything else come to mind around curiosity? Or would you say there's
there's also uncertainty is another factor. So uncertainty, so just briefly about novelty. So if you think about evolutionary psychology, like as we evolved as humans, this is kind of an easy way to, I think, reference back and try and understand each piece of psychology that exists. So for example, the novelty is like, okay, well, if I see a new type of creature in the wild, like that could be dangerous to me. Therefore, I'm curious about what that is. So that is why curiosity and novelty, that's why novelty matters. And therefore, why we're curious about it is like novelty in an environment you've lived in for like 50 years in a tribe in the middle of the UK or something. Like that is potentially a dangerous animal, and therefore you need to know about it. So that's kind of an example of that. Secondly, uncertainty is again part of curiosity in terms of like just fundamentally everyone's psychology. So uncertainty again is this whole idea of, okay, so I'm not aware of what that shadow is in the distance. Is that like another human from a different tribe that might kill me, or is it like just a deer? It's like, again, I need to know that, because if I don't know that, I just like pretend it doesn't matter. I'm going to die because that could be a human that kills me. So it's like really important to, resolve uncertainty. So that's an interesting one. You'll see that.
So interesting.
Yeah, there's certain channels on YouTube which are really good at this, and I've kind of posted on LinkedIn and Twitter about this a bit, where they kind of like are leveraging these curiosity tools, but towards a particularly useless end.
So Polymatter, let's have a look at this.
Okay. So what Putin fears more than war, the one it's a bit up.
Back up.
So this is an interesting one. It is, again, it's leveraging a person in popular culture, which is Putin. It is leveraging a kind of, it's almost like trendjacking the war, because we know that Putin is involved in a war, and there's probably new news around the war, which is obviously going to affect our lives potentially. And there is uncertainty around what this particular thing Putin fears is. And because it's a president, fearing it, is somebody we look up to as like an authority, it's likely someone who's, if they fear it, we should probably fear it as well. So it's creating an uncertainty of sorts about, okay, if this person fears it, then I probably should know about it as well, because that's kind of too uncertain in my mind.
I understand.
So that's an interesting example. And as you can see, that's like been really popular, like 2.4 million views in a month. So that's leveraging a few things psychology wise. Yeah.
Okay. And those reasons are a big driver, you'd say, in this video performing so well.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure about that.
Well, that's so interesting. It's so fascinating. And I think a lot of listeners will be surprised to hear about this level of detail and just thinking when putting video ideas together. It's very easy just to think, I'm going to make a how-to video on how to do this thing that I know how to do. But the way you're walking us through your process and all these considerations when you're wrapping the presentation of your video together, so interesting.
Yeah. I think a lot of these channels are doing these video essays like Polymatter, Real Life Law, When Neighbor Productions, Kurzgesagt, and then like business video essays. There's like this Moon, there is Magnex Media, like a few different channels. Like these guys are creating educational content, but they're doing it with packaging, which is like quite entertainment based. And the way I define entertainment based is they're kind of like sparking your curiosity about something that you didn't think you'd go to YouTube and you didn't think you'd go and learn. So that's what's kind of important. So for example, with how-to videos, creating how-to videos is good to the extent that you're kind of getting search traffic. But generally, after you kind of get the search traffic you want, YouTube is going to promote that video, but there's probably a very specific time in a person's day or week where they're going to be actually thinking and have interest in how to do this or how to do that. So that means that it's hard to get those kind of videos to perform in browse unless that how-to is particularly novel, for example. So it's like how to use a ChatGPT's latest tool or something, which is leveraging the curiosity of novelty, or it is maybe how to avoid getting COVID or something, like in the past, that would have been good. So these kind of ideas, they are leveraging like more entertainment-based curiosity, which is, something around curiosity, which is, as I said, the novelty. So that example, and then the uncertainty, like, okay, if I die from COVID, I don't want to. So how to avoid getting COVID would be a title, which is potentially something which would actually get promoted in browse and put in front of somebody. They never thought of clicking on a video like this, but they do, because it is leveraging entertainment type curiosity. So the reason I say this is, like, as any educational creator or person creating educational content on YouTube, I think looking at these guys who I mentioned, who are making educational content, but they're doing it with an entertainment entry point, basically, I think that can be really useful and really informative to know how to do that for your own content as well.
Right. We've been hearing great tips so far on how to get more views on YouTube. But if you're like me, you'll know that no matter how hard we work, some months views might be up and other months our views might be down. And when looking at ad revenue, that means that some months we might earn a lot and other months we might not. And I, for one, do not like that monthly inconsistency that comes with our YouTube earnings. So I went away and I found out that YouTubers like Jevon Dovey that you'll see on screen now, and even smaller YouTubers like Brendan Washington, are using a platform called UScreen to solve this problem. What is UScreen and how does it help us earn monthly recurring income, you might ask? Let me explain. So going back to Jevon, he's used UScreen to build the creator film school that you'll see on screen now, where you can see here he's teaching his audience the skills they need to create awesome videos. And if they want to, as viewers can join the creator film school by just committing to a $29 a month membership fee. Jumping back to Brandon here, he's used UScreen to open the Creative Fam Academy, where if we scroll down, we can see he's hosting a ton of courses for his viewers that they can access when they join his monthly membership, which if we scroll down here, we can see is ranging from $4.99 for the basic stuff to $79.99 a month to join. And just focusing in on some of the UScreen features Brandon's using to convince his viewers to sign up to that monthly fee, we can see here he's offering live stream trainings to his viewers. They can join an internal community inside this membership space, and they just get access to a ton of extra guides, courses, video content, and Q&As. And jumping back to Jevon here, even though his views on YouTube might be going up and down each month, if he can convert 100 of his viewers to sign up to his $29 a month membership, well, that's $2,900 he's making every month, regardless of how many views he gets on YouTube. Seeing these creators doing this solidifies inside me how great I think building a membership space around your YouTube channel is. It generates you recurring, consistent income every month, and it just means that you're not obsessing over whether your views are up or down on YouTube month in, month out. In fact, if you look on screen now, you'll see that I'm using UScreen myself to build up my own membership platform. I need to use one of their templates, to be honest, to make mine look a bit better, because it's looking a bit basic at the moment, but it's a work in progress. And by using UScreen to build out this membership space, I'm able to send emails directly to people that sign up and become members. I'm able to offer free trials and provide coupon codes to my viewers. And jumping over here, you'll also see the behind the scenes of what the community space looks like inside a UScreen membership area, where members of my membership space can come and have a chat with each other, speak to me, and just build a community inside my membership platform. And later, if I wanted to, I could bring my membership space into my own white label mobile and TV app, which means people could access it on iPhone, Android, Fire Stick, Roku TV, all of those usual suspects. It's a no-brainer for YouTubers like you and me making educational content to build membership sites alongside our channels to just get that guaranteed recurring revenue. I recommend using UScreen to do it. Thankfully, they're sponsors of this podcast. So if you want to get set up, you can use my partner link that you'll find below in the description to this video. Thanks. Yeah. I'll just speak from my experience for a second. The first 5 years of my channel, it was completely built from search traffic, how-to videos, or keyword stuffing topics into titles. And something I've been dedicating myself to this year is studying titles, studying thumbnails, studying videos that are going viral for small channels in the educational space. And I have realized it's a completely separate skill set. Whereas people come to YouTube when they're searching, they search for an exact term, and if as close as your video matches that search term, the more likely you are to get a click from the search there. But there's almost this skill in getting views from the other algorithms, the browse and the suggest algorithm, where it's how good you are at getting people's interests that didn't necessarily come to YouTube looking for that information.
Yeah, exactly.
What you put in front of them makes them interested in that information.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's a hard.
Yeah,
I'll just finish. I found it hard to learn because I was so drilled to thinking search terms. But speaking to you and speaking to other creators like yourself, I realize how important it is to have that skill set to drive that curiosity in people.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm the opposite. It's like I'm incompetent at like search keywords and stuff like that. I don't really know how to do this very well at all. But I know how to do the curiosity, so I can still get the browse and the suggested traffic, and that's fine. Yeah, it's kind of opposite learning for me.
So your tip to educational creators there for getting viewers much bigger than what the search traffic would bring in is, learn these things. Good idea that you can wrap up in curiosity, that you can find ways to present your information, but in more interesting ways that people are actually interested in right here and now, kind of learn those additional skills. Is that right?
Yeah, and one additional point or two additional points. One is when it comes to the viewer looking through their browse and suggested, like if you're making a video where, as I said, somebody is only going to be interested in your video at a very specific time in their day, then that is again a limitation. So maybe it's like how to cook this particular food is like, okay, they're probably going to search for it. They're not really going to look for it. And if they're waking up in the morning and it's a dinner food, they're probably not going to watch it unless they're like really passionate about cooking, if it comes up on their browse or suggested. So that means that creating titles which can be watched at basically any point in the day. So for example, that Putin, what does Putin fear about the war? Like that is a perfect example of, I can watch that anytime. I can watch it at midnight. I can watch it at midday. I'm still going to watch it because it's still interesting to me. So I think if you want to get browse and suggested views, like thinking about, can this be watched anytime and still be interesting? Because if it can't, then it's probably going to be less easy for YouTube to promote it just constantly. And the second point is, you mentioned something briefly, which was interesting, is when you were analyzing and learning how to improve your own strategy, you were looking at small channels which had recently got views, which had been particularly successful. And that is very powerful, I think, is finding channels in your niche that have just recently had like one video out of lots of videos blow up. The reason that's valuable is that if you're just looking at channels which are already successful, they have some benefits in the fact that they're already big because they have social proof, because they have views. So large views means social proof, which means that the kind of like fact that it has 100,000 views is kind of almost a stamp of approval of culture to say, hey, this is a good quality video. And that is something which a small channel does not have. So if the small channel is still succeeding, despite having that is a good sign that it's actually a good video, right? That's the first point. And the second point is just like generally, if that channel is small and has managed to get a lot of views, that's probably a video idea which is particularly unique in the space, like maybe not being done in the niche yet. And that could be like a general starting point for maybe a potential series or like continuous number of videos, which could be done just like quite slightly tweaking that same idea. And that could be something you could take over basically. It's like, okay, find something that works and then be the person to then iterate and iterate and iterate over multiple times and then build that into your own series of sorts. Yeah.
I guess that increases your likelihood then of getting returning viewers as well, because if you make one video on one topic that does really well, and then you make continuously make videos rooted in that topic, you're going to keep appealing to the same viewer that came and watched your original video, right?
Definitely, yeah. And I think that's one of the things which is interesting. It's like a double-edged sword in doing that, because if you go too far down one route, you could be really good at like basically recreating the same video slightly differently every time and getting views. But then if you do that too much and you kind of end up pigeonholing yourself into a particular niche, then that can get too niche down and you may not actually want that. So it's kind of like knowing how to leverage success and keep iterating and slightly changing it and making a new video. Do that and know how to do it, but do it and not avoid missing your overall strategy, because it's easy to chase views. But if you then kind of like you kind of like forget your overall plan of like what the channel brand is meant to be going towards. So for example, if somebody is making a video, let's say like a new YouTube channel, they talk about AI and ChatGPT and stuff, and they just do ChatGPT and AI and stuff. And then they're just like pigeonholed into talking about ChatGPT like exclusively. And that obviously trend jacked, it got them views, but then it may actually have damaged their long-term plans if they're too focused on it. But if they kind of like realize that, yes, I can make a video every time on this topic, it will get me more views, but actually it would kind of like put me into a box, and I don't want to be in the box. So I'm going to make a few videos on this topic, but I'm going to space those videos out slightly with other videos to make sure that I'm not just attracting that audience and I'm not putting myself too much in a box. And that's like, you know, how to play the balance of not putting yourself in a box, but still leveraging trends and getting growth.
That's really interesting, because I know people watching this, and myself included, a lot of the advice we see out there from gurus and experts is stick to your niche and stick to your topic, you know, to keep attracting the same audience. But you're saying there's a middle point where you're not going too narrow, but you've got a little bit of variety on the channel. It's finding that balance by the sound of things.
Yeah, so I'm more saying that because there's one thing about having a successful YouTube channel and views, and there's another thing which is like having a successful career that's going in the right direction you want to. And if you kind of like put yourself in a box, then you may kind of limit yourself in the future. If you're clear about where you want to go, then you could be limiting that potential, and you could kind of almost like sabotage the channel by causing it to go in a direction which is too niche for what your ultimate ambitions are. So that's kind of the important point. It's kind of like just making sure to keep that broad perspective of where you really want to go, and making sure that you don't go too down the rabbit hole of getting one particular topic that's been working and just repeating it.
Yeah, that's super valuable advice. We're going to move on in just a second. I'm going to ask you about how you manage your teams, because I think there's some really important lessons there on time management and project management that people can learn. But just to finish off this ideas packaging section, right at the very start, you walked us through how you come up with ideas and your creative process. I guess just to tail end that point, how do you know when an idea you come up with is the idea that you're going to continue with and move forward with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's mostly an intuition. I think it's like having enough experience to know the difference in curiosity level between different ideas and have a good sense of my audience and kind of the mixture of those two things. So it's like generally based on human psychology, what do I think is best? And then generally based on what I know about the audience and what they're interested in and what is popular in the niche and what is popular on my channel already. How do those kind of two things combine? And then the idea that kind of matches those both best is going to be the thing that I feel intuitively is the best. And that's kind of how I select.
Okay. So it comes back again to understanding your audience and experience by the sound of things.
Yeah, definitely. And understanding psychology as well. That helps. Yeah.
Yeah. Great tips. Cool. Let's jump on to everything that you are managing and how you do that. Yeah, cool. So I know that you are spinning a lot of plates, and we've already seen 3 of your channels, and I know that you also have channels in other languages too, so you've got more than 3. Can you talk us through how you've set all that up and how you manage all of that?
Sure. Yeah. So the general approach I have is to do what Richard Branson, the British billionaire, has done for building companies in various industries, and do that for YouTube channels. So what does that require? Well, it requires finding somebody for each channel to run it like their own kind of small business. So they're like creative directors. We call them, the title is now, it's like creative producer / channel manager. That's kind of the title of the role. Previously we called it directors, but yeah, it's kind of like all mixes up. Anyway, that's kind of the person who is running the creative vision. They are somebody I trust, and I, somewhat oversee them to begin with, to like give them some training on how to think about packaging, how to think about script pacing, because usually you can't really hire these people who already know all this stuff. So that's the goal. Is every single channel I already hire the team. I never just like start a channel without a team. Like, I've always got a team, and the reason for that is I can't manage timelines very well myself. I am incompetent. I've never touched an animation software, so I have no idea how to use it, but I have animation channels. I've forgotten how to do video editing because I haven't done that for 7 years. Essentially I make sure to hire people every single time. So that's the model, is hire a new team every channel, run each channel independently, because that kind of makes it more of a tight-knit, responsible group of people who really care. And then, the goal is to keep making every month. Starting next year, I want to make a new brand that's like an animation brand every single month.
Every month? Wow, so traveling, yeah.
Yeah, every month. It's going to be intense, but I'm confident I can do it. So that's the goal. Yeah. And what I'm going to be doing is, doing that in educational niches, various niches. So that's the goal. And in terms of how I manage things, so we currently have that structure, and then we have the business structure as well, which is kind of separate.
Let me just pause you for a second. So I know of 3 of your channels, and you said you have independent teams per channel. So does that mean you've got 3 YouTube teams at the moment?
So we have 5 at the moment. Yeah. So there's 2 other channels that are really quite small, which aren't really worth mentioning yet, but they're up on the rise. So we have 5 channel teams, and then we also have a 6th one that's coming probably in the next 2 months or so. We have like 5 or so at the moment. They're properly running as a team, each with a director. Yeah.
This is really interesting stuff, because I know a lot of YouTubers watching this struggle to find the time to just run their one channel, and you've got more than 5 channels and teams that you're running, and you told us they're all animation channels, but you don't animate. So that's some clue into how you make this happen. And you forgot how to edit, so you're not editing because you haven't edited in so long. So it sounds like you really focus on knowing what your role is and delegating everything else. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's really, I think it takes quite a lot of self-reflection to make sure that you know and you keep on track on terms of what you are best at, and then like make sure you don't get distracted by the things you're not best at. So yeah, that's my goal, is to always do what I'm best at. The kind of way I categorize it is, it's like, okay, what do I want to be the best in the world at? As the first thing. And what do I love or enjoy? It's like two things there. So it's firstly, what do I want to be the best in the world at? It is building YouTube channels and scaling them, and doing that without kind of being the one who's managing it, and being able to do that at speed and like do that every single month, for example. So that's I want to be the best in the world at doing that. And what do I love? It's like, I love looking at a new channel idea. I love kind of tweaking it, like trying to find the angle that's going to work and educate and also entertain and also broadly appeal and actually make money and not just like lose money. So like tweaking the channel ideas from scratch, like inventing ideas. I really love that. So that's probably something I'm going to keep holding on to, because I love doing that, and it fits into what I want to do in the future. So those are the two pieces of criteria, is what do I want to be best in the world at, plus what do I love, and then just like holding on to those things, and everything else gets delegated. I think what's interesting is when it comes to delegation, most people think, okay, so I've got all these responsibilities. Now, what's the next thing to delegate? And for me, it's the opposite. It is, I want to delegate everything except for these things. So that's kind of a different mindset. Is if you are in the mindset of, I want everything to be delegated, and then I'm going to hold on to a few things, it's easier to spot opportunities than the opposite. It's kind of like a slight difference in mindset, but I think it just like makes it easier to notice those opportunities and easier to delegate as well.
That's really interesting. And I know a lot of people watching this will feel like they need to delegate something because there's not enough time in the day to do everything that needs to be done to run their channels. So maybe you can talk us through a few of the other roles, just so that viewers can actually understand what can be delegated. So you've already told us you have the titler at the top doing the sort of titles and packaging. What other team members do you have for each channel?
So we have, a director who is creative producer, however we define the role. That's the person who's like the chief executive almost of the creative vision. So they're doing that. Otherwise, we have, depending on the channel, sometimes we have a content strategist who is like separate, who is able to help with the title and thumbnail packaging and the video idea selection and making sure that we're like consistently on track in that regard. That sometimes happens. Or the director themselves can do that role depending on how skilled they are. And then otherwise, those are kind of like senior roles. The rest of them are management roles. So it would be just a voiceover actor, the script writer, the animators, the sound designer, the editor. And those, for every channel we have like those people. Some of those roles cross across channels. So for example, sound designers don't really take very long, so we can have them do multiple channels. But animators, they take like an entire month to make a video. So they obviously have to stick to one channel. So it depends on the role and how we mix that. But generally, we try and keep them separate because that kind of means that team members can kind of feel like, this is the channel I'm working on, and this is what I'm going to like focus and care about. Compared to just like, okay, I'm going to do the animation any video I get given, which is kind of like, I can make it good, I can make it bad. Doesn't really matter so much. So that's kind of a difference, which helps.
Do you incentivize your staff based on channel performance?
Yeah, so we have like various systems for that, which is something I'm very into. I enjoy doing that and setting that up and talking about it. So for the director, for the creative producer, that person is going to get a profit share of the channel. So either that's going to be the AdSense money minus the production expenses and the profit of that, or if the channel is quite expensive, then there's not going to be any profit from that. So we do total revenue like AdSense, sponsorships, merchandise, money, minus expenses, and then the profit of that. So it depends on that. We also do percentage of the AdSense revenue of various roles, which I think is really beneficial. So for example, animators, if we just pay them per minute of animation, which is like a typical structure. So like every minute they animate, they get like a fixed price. That's one model which we use. But if we only do that, then they are basically incentivized to make as many minutes as they can in a month. And that's fine, but it does mean they can potentially rush and therefore the quality is not as good. So what I try and do is like mix the fixed incentive, which might be an hourly pay, it might be a per minute fee, it might be a salary. Mix that with like, what is the opposite incentive? So if somebody is on a salary, they may not be motivated towards growth. Okay, well, how do I solve that? I create a profit share, which then they're more interested in growing the channel because they benefit from it. So like find the opposite, which kind of like compensates for whatever the compensation is. So for animators, we do a percentage of the AdSense. So they get like 5% of the AdSense in the first 30 days of the video. And that's a model which I think can work with editors nicely as well. So if people have editors, then if you get enough views on AdSense, then you can say, okay, 5% of the AdSense in the first 30 days, I'm going to give you as a bonus. And that incentivizes them to care about quality. They care about the intro more, and the intro being good is obviously going to affect the retention. Retention means better video means better views. So it really helps to just basically align everyone on quality. And yeah, just like per role, figure out what those are and set something up.
That's really interesting to hear about, because I know a lot of viewers will be watching this thinking, I'd love to hire someone and get my time back, but I can't imagine the person I hire caring that much about my channel and giving me as high quality work as I do myself. So what you're doing there is finding ways to solve that issue.
Exactly. It's trying to create an incentive that causes them to manage themselves towards quality in the same way that I would myself. And that means I don't need to spend so much time trying to like tell them to fix things because it should already just be good. Now there are exceptions, of course, and you still got to manage people and give feedback sometimes, but generally it helps a lot for that particular issue. One more thing I would say about that is there is in my mind I had this like model, which is there is my personal vision of like how this video should be, and there is also what is going to be on average for the viewer a good quality video. And sometimes we can get, as creators, we can kind of get mixed up between the idea of my vision is what the viewers definitely want to see, is the best thing the viewers want to see, compared to my vision is like, I don't know, 90% accurate. But that final 10%, if it's one way or another, if it's like this type or this type, like if I really think about it and I talk to viewers, it turns out they don't really care about this kind of difference. And it's easy to pretend that like they do care about just my vision, which is like A, but actually they don't. And it's just like A or B. So kind of getting up the last 10% of quality and saying, it doesn't really matter too much, as long as the video is generally good. I think that's really important as well, because it's very easy to get lost in trying to have somebody you're managing do exactly what you want to do because you're justifying it because if I don't do that, the viewers aren't going to like the video. But actually, you might be wrong. You might be just creating a unnecessary roadblock in your mind in terms of how much viewers actually care about those small differences at the end.
And I guess your staff could eventually start to resent you if they feel like you're micromanaging them, to that level.
Definitely.
But giving them some freedom, because and realizing that it not being exactly like you would do it isn't going to make a huge difference, but they get way more freedom in that process, right?
Yeah, and that's also really important as well. That's the flip side of it is, okay, so firstly, you save more time if you don't try and focus too much on the last 10% quality. Secondly, if you let somebody do a video and you don't give them too many micromanaging notes, then you're essentially kind of saying to them, like implicitly, like, I trust you to do what's best for the channel. And that is like a thing that would make them go, okay, well, I'm going to care more because like I'm trusted to care, and therefore I'm going to care more. As long as they got the right incentive, which depends, and as long as they're like the right person who generally is interested in your content, those are important things. But if you have like the right person in the role, then if you give them autonomy, they're going to kind of like step up and they're going to care more. If you have the wrong person in the role, then yes, that may not happen. But assume you have the right person, more autonomy is better. Therefore, being flexible in those last details of your vision, last 10%, can definitely help to just make them more interested in doing a great job without you kind of looking.
Do you think all YouTubers should be looking to eventually hire?
I think looking to hire something, yes. What that is, I think, is dependent. So, for example, what I said earlier was, okay, what do you want to be the best in the world at? Plus, what do you love? So some YouTubers do actually love editing. And I think that it's easy to say they need to delegate editing. And I think most cases they do. But there are some YouTubers who are very, very special. And they're like, I absolutely love editing. And I just like want to do it. And I think for those people, it's like, yeah, okay, you keep editing. But just be aware of the opportunity cost. So be aware that like it's good to keep things you love, and editing might be one of them, but there is going to be a cost to that in terms of the time, in terms of what you can't now do elsewhere. And that's fine. It's like, if you love it enough and that's inspiring enough, then do it. That's fine. But just be aware continuously of like what you're alternatively giving up by not doing other things. And I think if somebody does that, as long as they have the awareness, they're kind of like consciously choosing, they're choosing out of knowing what they're actually doing, as opposed to like unconsciously choosing, which is, nobody else can edit like I can, therefore I'm just going to edit. And they kind of like have no awareness of like the opportunities they're missing in terms of, I don't know, brand deals or creating a book or making more content and keeping up with competitors, because they're too exclusively focused on, I just want to edit because I'm the best person and no other editor can do it as I can.
Yeah.
So that's a difference.
Yeah, it can be destructive, that mindset, can't it? I think what we've learned from your approach to managing teams and the team infrastructure, you're obviously at a level that a lot of people aren't at yet. So I'm sure a lot of people would love to strive to get to where you are, but I think what everyone can take away from this is the value and the benefit of hiring people into your YouTube team, and also approaches on how to get best performance from that. So that's been really like useful to hear about how you approach that, and I can't wait to see how next year goes with the 12 new teams in 12 months.
Yeah, let's go for it.
I'd love to dig in, just as we start to wrap this up, I'd love to dig in to, I guess, more your sort of ideas and belief systems and thoughts. I know that from following you on social media that you have some strong ideas and about how educational content should be presented and should look like. Do you reckon you can run us through some of that?
Yeah, sure. So we can start with what we kind of like covered before, like recap that a bit. So I think the idea of chocolate covered broccoli is generally a very good idea if you want to get in the browse algorithm and the suggested algorithm, because that is just generally the best way to get clicks, and that's how you get suggested in those algorithms. That's the first thing. And then generally, and like more of a philosophy behind creating great content, I think there is a lot of potential to use the skills we have as people who know how to attract attention, and we know how to do entertainment well. We know how to use those skills, but it's like, okay, do we just use them to entertain? Do we just use them to make money? Or do we use them to think, okay, like what do I want to teach people about in the world, and what do I want to use my platform for that's beyond a business? And for me, that is critical thinking, psychology, media literacy education. And that's really nice because it gives more purpose, it gives more depth to what I'm doing, and that's kind of more fulfilling. That makes my career more interesting. And I would encourage more creators to think about that, because I think a lot of creators, they see the Mr. Beast of the world, and like they're always looking at the next view count they want to reach and looking at the next money figure they want to reach, and that's fine. But it is at some point going to be somewhat soulless and just like on repeat. So kind of reflecting and thinking, okay, I do have an audience, and now what am I going to do with it? I think when starting out, it totally makes sense to not really think about that. But once we get to a certain point, there's kind of a responsibility to do something with that platform. And that can be as basic as just making videos that respect viewers' time. Like that could just be as simple as that, just making good content. But it could be more than that.
And when you say respect their time, you mean like not being clickbaity and deceiving them? Is that kind of what you're getting at there?
Yeah, I'd say that. And not like trying to just like fill the video so you get more watch time, or just like excessively overstimulating them with unnecessary effects and just like gimmicky psychology tactics. Again, like I think to establish a brand, it's important to like pretty much do everything to get there. But once that brand is established, I think there is like a level of responsibility to the audience, and respecting viewers' time is an important part of that. And I think it's a business strategy as well, right? It's like if you do respect viewers' time, then they're more likely to appreciate that once they actually learn about themselves, they learn how to value their time. Because it will get to a point where viewers have more awareness of these tactics. And then if you have a catalog of videos but it's using like shitty tactics, then they're probably going to look at that and go, okay, well, this person wasn't really respecting my time, but I didn't really know. And I just got kind of gimmicked into watching their content. So I think it's a business strategy as well, to be respectful.
I think as well, if we develop these skills of grabbing people's attention and really understanding psychology to keep people watching, but at the end, a viewer feels almost deceived. We're leaving the viewer not satisfied, aren't we? That they're going to be dissatisfied. And we both know that viewer satisfaction is something that YouTube really looks for and values in creators. So you could really be hurting your own growth if you go down that route of leaving viewers unhappy.
Yeah, definitely. I think YouTube is focused more and more on that. Satisfaction is a metric. So the previous advice of watch time and like make your video as long as possible, there's still truth to that, but that is gradually changing and it is becoming more sophisticated. YouTube is becoming more sophisticated. So yeah, I think valuing the viewer's time, respecting it, but at the same time knowing how to compete in your niche and stay up the trend, and that's important as well. But doing both, I think is possible, and if you can, then longer term your brand will be stronger for it, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome. One thing that's really stood out for me from talking to you today is longevity. Whether it was you talking about making videos that you're passionate about, understanding why you're doing what you're doing. And then also earlier on we talked about how giving yourself that variety in your channel, enough space for you to actually evolve and adapt and grow into your passions as your channel like grows and evolves. So yeah, really, really interesting to hear about your insights around longevity there. I know that you partner and are looking to partner with YouTubers. Could you maybe run us through what's going on there? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So as part of this goal of making a new channel every single month, I need to have a fantastic person at the top of that channel who is leading the vision, who is on board with the idea of creating education that is entertaining, and is on board with the idea of essentially like just really caring about viewers' time, respecting it, and ultimately building a really amazing brand that does some education that's interesting. So yeah, I'm always looking for people who are interested in taking those spots and joining me as like a business partner of sorts to help me launch these channels, grow these channels, and do the education we're looking to do. So yeah, if anyone's interested in that, then reach out. I've got my email and my LinkedIn, and it'd be great to talk.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. Like just talking in this podcast, it's clear how much value you've amassed over the years you've been doing YouTube, and anyone coming into your ecosystem can obviously going to be able to absorb your skills and your knowledge from being around you, and also having you as the captain of the ship. I think is a great opportunity for any creator out there. So I think that's really exciting. Yeah, maybe I'll put links to your contact details below. And yeah, maybe some viewers watching this can be folded into your 12-team growth strategy in the next
year. Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
That'd be great. And I also finance the channels as well. So if you have an animation channel idea but you can't finance it, then if you like pitch it to me, then potentially we can partner on that. And yeah, you might have an amazing vision, but you don't have the money for it, or don't have the team building experience or the YouTube experience to be confident enough in yourself. And if I judge that idea as something I think I can help execute, then there's also that potential to help with the with various pieces there. So yeah, it can work either way. But basically, I'm looking to empower people, create visionaries or directors who are interested in creating amazing content education. So whether that is you joining me or me helping you, I'm happy with either. So yeah, looking forward to people who reach out.
That's amazing. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Guys, get in touch with Oliver. Any closing remarks or things we might have missed in the podcast that you want to end the podcast with? Anything come to mind?
Okay, so just one last. So when it comes to the whole idea of satisfaction as like a key metric that YouTube is using, so there is the first metric of like YouTube being interested in your video, which is did they click on the video? That's the first thing. Second thing is, did they watch the video like almost fully, or did they watch it fully? The third thing is, did they actually watch more videos on YouTube afterwards? So that's important, because if somebody just watches your video and then leaves YouTube, then YouTube isn't able to show them any more ads, and that is going to mean they make less money. If YouTube makes less money showing your video than somebody else's video, naturally they might as well just show somebody else's video. So that's important. Next thing is something I've recently kind of like studied by looking at the analytics of videos with 15-minute view duration, 20-minute, 25-minute, it does turn out that YouTube does like long videos. And again, I think it's simply because they like to show ads, and a longer video, it basically creates less exit points. So I was talking to some friends who are in like data guys, and we were talking about this idea, which is like each time you stop a video and you start a new video, you finish one video, go to the next video, that is an exit point. So the viewer is going to go, I finished a video. Do I click on the next video or not? And that is going to require some kind of cognitive processing. They may kind of reflect on if they want to continue YouTube or they want to go somewhere else on a different platform or just off their phone. So the longer videos, therefore, generally for YouTube are going to mean they watch for longer because the viewer does not have that question in their head. So that's why YouTube kind of likes longer videos, because they just are easy to hold viewers' attention for. So longer videos.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's an action needed, isn't there, when a video ends for the person to go to the next one, but with long.
Yeah.
And also I found with long videos, people can go up and start doing the laundry and go to the toilet, but the video is still playing in the background.
That's true.
Yeah, and serving ads.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, YouTube's still going to make money from ads in the background. And yeah, they're not going to complain. So that's that. And the last thing is this whole idea of satisfaction, which has recently kind of been introduced, is essentially, okay, so let's say you got the viewer to watch your video, they then watched more videos either on your channel or somebody else's, but they just like had a long viewing session. That's great. The next thing is, like, were they satisfied enough with that whole YouTube viewing session to actually come back to YouTube tomorrow, come back in a week, come back in a month? So the more you can help YouTube cause viewers to come back, then the better you are helping them make money with ads. So I think always thinking, how can I help YouTube make more money with ads? That is a great framework to think of how to get promoted. So if you can, so satisfaction, the reason satisfaction is important is if I satisfy a viewer and they want to see my brand regularly, and the only way they see my brand, or probably one of the main ways, is YouTube, then they have to come to YouTube. YouTube likes that because YouTube makes ads money. So essentially, if you can be satisfying enough to get people to come back for you, then YouTube's going to like that because it's bringing them back to the platform. So satisfaction is mainly, from what I can see, it is mainly useful because of that. It is how much kind of watch time do you get in a session? That's one thing. And then how much watch time do you cause YouTube to get in a month? It's kind of like the next thing, which is like satisfaction based.
Yeah. Okay, one last question because it's such an obvious one. Even though I was planning on ending this podcast, I've got to ask this. How do we leave our viewers satisfied?
Okay. There's quite a lot of nuance there. I would say that it's firstly delivering on expectations that have been set. So the title and thumbnail sets expectations. It is then, if you can, exceeding those expectations. So you may want to create a title and a thumbnail which says 7 tips and it ends up being 9 tips. Like that's kind of expectations exceeding kind of example. And finding ways to exceed expectations, that's really important. The last thing is, in terms of psychology, there's a thing called the peak end rule, which I can link. And it's quite useful because it basically means that like when you interact with a video or a brand or any kind of experience, the things you remember about it and the way you kind of like positively associate with it is based on the peak of the experience and the end of the experience. So in a movie, it's like you're going to remember the peak, like the most dopamine and the most like release of emotions that you had in the movie. And you're going to remember like how it ended as well. So with your video, it's kind of like, how do I make the peak really strong? How do I make the end really strong? And those things are going to lead to making a video which is going to associate positively when the video is finished. So the viewer finishes it, they think, okay, just like subconsciously, they're going to be thinking that video has these associations, like positive associations, based on the peak of the moment and the end of the video. Yeah. So if you can like refine those two pieces, you create like a branding association with your content, with your videos, and that is going to lead them to be more likely to click when they see it next time, which is again, this whole idea of like satisfying them in a way that means they come back to YouTube for more. So I think that's the way to do it. It's like the video association after they watch.
Wow. My mind's blown. I feel like we've just had a masterclass here. That was awesome.
No.
Thank you so much. That was so interesting. I've been we spoke briefly in the past, but I've been hoping to get you onto a call again in the future. And I'm so happy I did. That was so interesting and so useful. Thanks so much, Oliver.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, that was really fun and great questions as well. Because I brought some things to the table I haven't before. So I think that's going to be useful to people. Yeah.
Awesome. I love geeking out about this stuff, and I found that other YouTubers that I talk to love geeking out about it too. So really love doing these podcasts. Great. let's wrap this up. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you want to reach out to Oliver, his details will be in the description. Thanks again, Oliver. Really appreciate it. Stick around. I'm just going to press end recording and we'll have a little chat to debrief after this. But see you later, guys.